In a large and busy shopping mall in America, where people come to shop for their homes on weekends, one day a scene occurred that could never be erased from the memory of the visitors. This mall was in a suburb of New York, where the magnificent stores of big brands, lights and glitter attracted every visitor. Inside this mall was a shoe store called Balance Footwear, which was famous for its expensive and fashionable shoes. A story began that day at this store that later shook the entire mall. The manager of the store was a middle-aged white man named Richard. He considered himself very wise and experienced, but inside he was filled with pride and prejudice. His attitude was always bitter and disrespectful, especially towards people of color. Around noon that day, when there was a good crowd of customers in the store, a young black girl entered. She had an innocent smile on her face, she was wearing a simple pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and she was carrying a small bag in her hand. The girl looked only 16 or 17 years old, but there was a certain confidence and dignity in her eyes. As soon as she entered the store, some people could not pay much attention to her simplicity. But the manager Richard immediately glanced at her, and a poisonous thought came to his mind. What is this girl doing here? She probably can't even get close to these shoes, let alone buy them. Richard, as was his habit, began to examine customers instead of respecting them. He often considered people who came in plain clothes to be inferior and considered those who looked rich to be the real buyers. He put his hand in his pocket and approached the girl with a sarcastic smile. He said loudly, so that other customers could hear, "Got balance? I'll pay double. That is, if you can show me the balance of buying these shoes, I will pay double the money." His style was completely sarcastic, as if he wanted to embarrass this girl in front of everyone. The entire store fell silent for a moment. The customers standing around saw this scene and some suppressed laughter, some were surprised. The girl's face was silent for a moment, but then she took a deep breath. Her face still had dignity. She slowly stood in the middle of the store and said in a calm tone, "Never judge someone by their appearance and clothing. Sometimes the truth turns out to be much bigger than you think." Hearing these words, the manager Richard laughed even more sarcastically and said, "Oh, look. She came to give me a lecture. Do you even know how much these shoes cost? You probably don't have a single note in your wallet, and you came here like a millionaire." The hint of prejudice in his voice had deepened even more. The customers now began to watch the scene with more interest. No one was sure how confident the innocent-looking girl was. But no one knew who this girl was and what her true status was. Richard's words made the atmosphere even more tense. The faces of the customers standing around were filled with curiosity and surprise. Some were watching the scene silently, while a few began to whisper, "Is this girl really here to buy or just to look?" But there is a strange confidence in her tone, she doesn't seem to be nervous. The girl slowly approached the rack and picked up one of the most expensive pairs of shoes. They were the kind of shoes that would make an ordinary person recoil at the thought of their price. The shoes cost more than $5,000, and this brand was famous among Hollywood's big stars for its style and quality. Richard laughed sarcastically when he saw this and said, "Oh, she just put her hands on the most expensive shoes. Son, these dreams are good, but think about reality. People like you can only window shop, not actually buy." The girl did not show any haste or anger. She gently placed the shoes on the counter and said calmly, "Okay, let's make them a bill." Hearing this, the entire store was in a moment of confusion. People looked at each other as if they couldn't believe their ears. Richard also widened his eyes and said, "What? You're going to give them money? Do you even know how much it is?" The girl opened her purse and took out a small black wallet. It contained several cards, but she calmly took out a black premium card. That card was not ordinary. It was the kind that only billionaires use. One of the customers caught a glimpse of the card and immediately recognized it. "This is a Black American Express. Only those with an annual income in the millions of dollars have it." Now the atmosphere was starting to change even more. Richard's forehead began to sweat. But he did not let his pride be suppressed and said with a laugh, "It is easy to take out the card, but the real check will be when I put it in the system and it is rejected." He took the card with great pride and inserted it into the machine. People in the whole shop were holding their breath. Everyone found this moment memorable. Richard's face was confident that this card would fail and he would be able to show off his victory to everyone. But as soon as the card was swapped, "Approved" was immediately written on the screen. Seeing this, a whisper spread among the customers and many people said in surprise, "Oh my God." The girl's face was still calm, but Richard's condition was obvious. His pride was crushed in an instant. As soon as Richard saw "Approved" on the screen, his facial expression changed. The light in his eyes dimmed. The smile that had been filled with sarcasm just moments before had now turned into panic and embarrassment. He knew that every customer in the store had seen this scene with their own eyes and that no one would believe his laughter or arrogance now. There was an awkward silence in the atmosphere, but in that silence, the echo of a girl's dignity was most noticeable. Some of the customers started talking to each other. Someone was saying, "Wow, that was a great turn of events." The manager tried to embarrass her but ended up humiliated himself. Another was saying, "The girl showed great confidence, otherwise most people would shut up or run away after hearing such sarcasm." Some people even started making videos, because in this day and age, any unusual moment is immediately uploaded to social media. Richard tried to control himself and said with a fake smile, Oh, so you were really serious. Well, it's a great pleasure that Balance Footwear has a new valued customer today." But his voice didn't have the confidence it had a few moments ago. He knew that his words wouldn't impress anyone now, but his flattery and false attitude would only cause more embarrassment. The girl looked at him and said calmly, "You said that if I could buy this, you would pay double, remember?" Hearing this, the entire store burst into laughter. The sweat on Richard's face increased even more. He stammered, That was just a joke, I didn't mean that." But the customers knew that it was just an excuse. The girl picked up the bill for her shoes and stopped in the middle of the store instead of leaving the store. He said loudly so that everyone could hear, "Never judge someone by their clothes, the skin color, or their age. This behavior only diminishes your personality, not that of others." These words echoed throughout the store. People were amazed at his dignity. At that moment, the mall's security team entered. But they didn't come to stop the girl. In fact, one of the security officers immediately recognized the girl. He was surprised, and said, "Hey, this is Miss Grace, the daughter of the CEO of Hamilton Enterprises." Hearing this, a huge explosion occurred in the atmosphere. More surprise spread across the faces of the customers. The ground gave way from under Richard's feet. He never imagined that the girl he was embarrassing in front of everyone was actually the daughter of the owner of the company he considered his dream job. The customers started clapping, and some directly started calling Richard, "Shame on you." Fear was now clearly visible in Richard's eyes. The girl, who just a few moments ago was just a simple black teenager, to him, now stood before him in the form of a reality that shattered all his pride and prejudice. The girl he had been looking down on was actually the only daughter of the CEO of Hamilton Enterprises, a large American multinational company, and this company was the original owner of many brands, including Balance Footwear. Meaning, the girl not only owned the shoes, but the entire store, but also a major shareholder of the mall. This revelation made the atmosphere even more dramatic. Customers raised their mobile cameras. Everyone wanted to record the moment. It was great content for social media. Store manager mocks black girl, but she turns out to be CEO's daughter. People knew that this clip would go viral across America in a matter of hours. The girl looked at Richard calmly and said, "I came as a normal customer, to see how you behave. But you have proven that you judge people by their appearance, color and clothes. This store is part of my father's business. I am sorry that this behavior was tolerated here." There was no hardness in her voice, but a strange, charismatic softness, which seemed even more powerful. Richard could not even make a sound. He began to stammer. I apologize, miss, I didn't mean that. But now the words were meaningless. He was completely exposed in front of the customers. The security guards stepped forward and took a bunch of keys from Richard and said, "You are dismissed from this moment." Hearing this, applause broke out in the atmosphere. Everyone knew that this justice was timely and rightful. The girl picked up the shoebox and said just one sentence as she left. "Remember, the real balance is not only in money, but also in attitude." Saying this, she left the store, and her words hit the walls of the store and went into everyone's hearts. The customers applauded her dignity and courage, and many people began to call this moment a lesson in their lives. Someone said, "This moment will always be remembered, that no one should ever be considered inferior." Another said, "This is real strength, responding to oppression with silence and dignity." Richard was now standing in the corner of the store with his head bowed, knowing that this moment today had not only ended his job but also tarnished his reputation forever. And the girl, she left with her confidence and peace, explaining that the real magic of strength is not in pride but in humility and dignity. As the girl stepped out of the store, amidst the hustle and bustle of New York, her presence felt like an invisible light throughout the mall. People stared at her, some in surprise, some in admiration. Mobile cameras immediately flashed, everyone recording the moment. Whispers like, "Who is this?" and, "Really the CEO's daughter?" were heard everywhere. And as soon as the clip was uploaded to social media, it quickly went viral on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. The hashtags #CEOsDaughter, #BalanceFootwearChallenge, #InstantKarma accompanied each post, and thousands of people began commenting on the incident. Inside the mall, Richard was still standing in the corner of the store, his eyes still filled with a mixture of fear, shame, and sadness. He thought, "What did I do? A simple customer? No, the daughter of a billionaire's family." I looked at her with wide eyes and sneered. "How will this all come back to haunt me now?" He was looking at his hands, as if he couldn't believe himself. He knew that no one would listen to any explanation from him now. All eyes were on him and every eye was filled with reproach. At the same time, the mall management and security team followed the girl into the store. A security guard immediately called the CEO to inform him of the situation. Within a few minutes, the CEO of Hamilton Enterprises, Mr. Hamilton, personally arrived at the store. His tall and dignified appearance, which reflected both power and dignity, immediately changed the atmosphere. People immediately stood back, because it was clear that he was a man of great personality. The CEO looked at Richard as soon as he arrived, and immediately read the panic in his eyes. He smiled and said, "Richard, it seems that you have to learn a lesson today." Richard began to stammer, his voice shaking, "Sir, I didn't mean, it was just a joke," but the CEO just glanced at him, and he knew that words could no longer save him. The girl looked at the CEO and said, "Dad, I just wanted people to know that truth and honor are greater than anything." Her tone was gentle, but every word carried the impression of strength and dignity. The CEO nodded and said, "Daughter, you have taught a great lesson today. Not only Richard, but everyone who is watching this scene, should understand that honor is not only related to position or wealth, but also to behavior and morals." Every customer and staff member in the store was amazed by the girl's courage and dignity. Some people now stood up and applauded, some were recording videos on their mobile phones, and some were nodding their heads to witness the powerful scene. The clip was quickly going viral on social media, with the hashtags #RespectTheConfidence and #InstantKarma trending on every platform. Everyone who saw the clip felt compelled to share it with their friends and family, as this moment was a real lesson in never taking anyone for granted. Richard, who had been overcome with panic and embarrassment until now, was trying to control himself. 1,000 thoughts were running through his mind. "I thought I would show my strength by embarrassing this girl, but now everything has turned upside down. People are watching me, my actions are recorded on every mobile phone, and this clip probably won't get me a job in any new store. He realized that his pride and prejudice were the real cause of his downfall, and he would always remember this moment. At the same time, the girl looked at the customers in the store, and her eyes had a calm, yet charismatic smile. She said softly, "This is all just a lesson. The greatest power in life is to respect others and have the right attitude. Never underestimate anyone based on their clothes, color, or age. This is the real balance, and this is the power that can make anyone successful." Her words were engraved in the hearts and minds of everyone in the store. The CEO looked at the girl and said, "Daughter, today you did not just teach a lesson to a store manager, but set an example for everyone who saw it. Your intelligence, dignity, and courage teach people that power is not just in money or position, but in attitude and character." Hearing this sentence, an unusual calm and dignity filled the atmosphere of the store, and people began to appreciate the moment. Inside and outside the mall, people were talking about the incident. Some people were saying, "This is truly a life-changing moment. Today I learned to never underestimate someone because of their clothes or appearance." Others said, "This girl is truly an example. She can defend her rights with calm and dignity, and this lesson is important for everyone." Richard was now completely helpless. He knew that today was not only ending his job, but also tarnishing his reputation and dignity forever. He stood silently in the corner, every eye focused on him, and everyone watched the end of his pride and prejudice. Amidst Richard's embarrassment and fear, the girl took a step forward and addressed the staff inside the store. She said softly, but with courage in every word, "I want you all to remember this lesson from today. Every customer is important, everyone's respect is important, and being prejudiced or mocking someone only diminishes your personality, not theirs." There was power in her tone, and this sentence resonated in everyone's heart. After that, the CEO looked at Richard and said, "Richard, this lesson today was very important for you. You learned that pride and prejudice never lead to success. You should always remember this situation today, so that you do not show such behavior in the future." Hearing this, Richard bowed his head. Shame and regret were clearly visible in his eyes. He thought, "This moment is the biggest lesson of my life. I looked down on a young girl, but in reality she was many times older than I thought." On the other hand, the customers in the mall were amused and surprised by the scene. People were talking to each other, some were re-watching the clip on their mobile phones, and some immediately called their friends and told them, "You should see this." A manager made fun of a young girl, and that girl turned out to be the CEO's daughter. The video created a stir on social media. The hashtags #KoiDaughter, #InstantKarma, and #RespectEveryone started trending on every platform. People were commenting. Some wrote, "This moment teaches us that prejudice against anyone never leads to success." Another said, "The dignity with which the daughter handled this matter is truly admirable." The girl stepped out of the store, and the customers who came out with the CEO saluted her dignity. The mall management also acknowledged that the incident had set a lesson not only for the store but for the entire mall. Everyone had mixed expressions of respect and surprise on their faces, and the moment was etched in people's minds as a memorable event. Richard, now completely helpless, stood in the corner of the store, each moment vividly vivid in his mind. His laughter, his pride, and now his end. "I wish I had understood earlier how fatal it can be to think of someone as weak or small," he thought. "This moment today is the greatest lesson of my life." After the girl and the CEO came out, the entire mall was filled with the scene. Customers applauded, some screamed with joy, and many people had mixed expressions of surprise and admiration in their eyes. Mobile cameras captured every moment, and the video quickly went viral on social media. Everyone who saw the clip was amazed at how confidently and dignified a young girl avenged the embarrassment of a senior manager. The CEO held his daughter's hand and smiled at her. His smile reflected both pride and peace. He said, "Daughter, Today you have taught not only everyone in the store, but people all over America, how powerful it is to present the truth with honor and dignity." The girl nodded and replied, "Dad, real power is not just in wealth or position, but in attitude, character, and respect for others." This sentence left a deep impression on everyone's hearts, and the people coming out of the store kept talking and listening to it. Richard was now in a state of complete despair. He knew that his pride and prejudice were becoming detrimental to his personal and professional life. The staff in the store, who had previously been horrified by his behavior, were now silently watching his fear and embarrassment. This moment became a lesson not only for Richard, but also for every staff member in the store, that prejudice or ridicule towards any human being can be fatal. People on social media were constantly commenting on the incident. In every video and every post, people were writing, "This is truly a life-changing moment." One user wrote, "This girl teaches us that any injustice can be responded to with dignity and confidence." Another user said, "Her attitude, calmness, and intelligence teach us that true power is not just in wealth or position but in character." The girl, with her dignity and calmness, was walking out with the CEO. Her courage and confidence were evident to everyone with every step she took. The people and customers in the mall were touched by this, and this scene became a real lesson that was etched in everyone's hearts and minds. People had learned that, truly, the power of honor and dignity can change everything. Richard was now completely helpless. He took a deep breath of regret for what he had done, and thought, "Today I learned the greatest lesson of life. Never underestimate someone based on their clothes, color, or age. True strength is hidden in dignity, and it is always greater than any cruelty or pride." This moment became a memorable lesson for everyone inside and outside the store. Customers, staff, and viewers on social media all learned how powerful it can be to respond to any difficult moment with dignity, calm, and self-confidence. This action by the girl and her father taught everyone that true strength is not in pride and wealth, but in character and attitude, and this was a lesson that was etched in every eye and heart across America.